Imagine this, it's 1968. You're deep behind enemy lines, and one wrong move means capture or worse. How do you survive? We're about to expose the real, declassified survival tactics of Cold War spies, the mental fortitude, the secret signals, and the daring escapes that were once classified top secret. This isn't just history, it's a blueprint for operating under unimaginable pressure. Welcome to Cold War covetousness, the language of shadows. If you suddenly arrived in East Berlin in the late 60s, communication wouldn't be about shouting, it would be about silence. You wouldn't use a phone, those were tapped by the Stasi. You wouldn't send a letter, those were steamed open. Instead, you'd use dead drops. You'd leave a film canister inside a hollowed-out brick in a crumbling wall, or a brush pass where you bump into a contact in a crowded subway and swap identical briefcases in a split second. The language was a chalk mark on a specific lamppost, or a flower pot moved 3 inches to the left on a windowsill. If you missed the signal, you were blind. The legend, living a lie in the Middle Ages, you were born a peasant and died a peasant. In the Cold War, you had to forget who you were entirely. This was called your legend. You weren't an American or British citizen. You were a mid-level lace salesman from Czechoslovakia with a forged birth certificate, a fake wife, and a backstory that went back 20 years. You had to know what school you attended, what your mother's maiden name was, and even dream in your cover language. One slip-up muttering in English in your sleep or holding a fork the wrong way could lead to an interrogation room in the Lubyanka. The Moscow rules, survival tactics. Survival wasn't about a sword. It was about the Moscow rules. These were the declassified survival tenets for operating in the most dangerous cities on Earth. Rule number 1, assume nothing. Rule number 2, never go against your gut. You lived in a state of constant peripheral awareness. You'd spend 4 hours dry cleaning yourself, taking random buses, entering department stores, and doubling back just to make sure you weren't being followed before a 30-second meeting. You weren't a person, you were a ghost in a trench coat. The ultimate poison. In our previous episodes, we talked about lead-in plates or gas in trenches. In the Cold War, the poison was in your pocket. Every spy lived with the knowledge of the L-pill, a cyanide capsule hidden in a false tooth or a fountain pen. If the secret police broke down your door, the tactic wasn't to fight your way out like James Bond, it was to chew the pill. Death was considered a better survival tactic than being broken under chemical interrogation and betraying your network. Beyond the mission, the long-term toll. This is where the romance of the spy movies dies. The psychological cost of constant deception was devastating. When you spend 10 years lying to everyone, your friends, your lovers, even yourself, your identity begins to dissolve. Many spies suffered from dissociative identity disorder. They reached a point where they didn't know which version of themselves was real. Paranoia wasn't just a job requirement. It became a permanent mental rewiring. You never stop looking in the rearview mirror, even when you're safe at home. The challenge of reintegration, shedding the spy persona, was often harder than adopting it. When the Cold War ended or a spy was brought in from the cold, they faced a massive void. How do you go from deciding the fate of nations to deciding what to buy at the grocery store? Many retired agents struggled with alcoholism, chronic depression, and a total inability to trust their own families. They had spent decades being rewarded for lying. Telling the truth felt like a vulnerability they couldn't afford. The echoes of the Cold War today. These tactics still resonate. While we have satellites and cyber warfare, human intelligence or human remains the gold standard. The signals have changed from chalk marks to encrypted apps, but the Moscow rules are still taught in intelligence academies today. The psychological blueprint for operating under pressure hasn't changed because human nature hasn't changed.